Here we have the question from Mr. David from the United States. He says, "Peace be upon you, Brother Sheikh. Why have the Pharisees rejected all the main prophets and messengers since biblical times? For example, Jesus. And what is the difference between the Pharisees and the Sadducees?" Well, very good question, dear Brother David. Let's see what happened in the Holy Land in the year 130 BC. It means at the end of the times of the priests in the temple, a century more than a century before Jesus, everyone was waiting for the coming of Jesus, and everyone was talking about the coming of Jesus. They essentially practically formed the government of the believers, of the Maccabees, of the priests. They wanted to comply with the rules, and there they formed a government, and when the Romans attacked them, they were defeated by the Maccabees. This means that the Romans prevailed over the believers who were waiting for the coming of Jesus. So there indeed believers are very disappointed. What are we going to do? A division among them. That became many sects. The Zealots, the Essenes, and the two important groups were the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Sadducees completely surrendered. This means they no longer believed in an afterlife. They said, "How much longer are we going to endure waiting for that Messiah, that Mahdi who has never come? See how we have lost the government of the Maccabees. It means everything is a lie." They disbelieved. They disbelieved in the teachings of the prophets. Then they said, "Come on, who has the power? The Romans who attacked us." The Sadducees became allies of the Romans as their partners. They began to hold positions in the Roman government. They started to do business with them and began to participate in Roman parties. That is to say, they were Jews, but they practically tied themselves to the worldly, abandoning what God had commanded them. Then they practically lost their faith, believing in the afterlife, and adopted that Hellenistic culture. They were absorbed by that Greek philosophy and all that. Yes, they got lost. But let's go to the group of the Pharisees. The Pharisees had several problems. First, they were corrupt. What does it mean? After forming this part of the Bible, that is the Hebrew part of the Bible, Old Testament, they began to invent concepts that we are the children of God, the chosen people of God. And the Pharisees thought the same. They then manipulated several concepts. That is to say, ideologically, they could not resolve the issue of that military failure. Since they could not justify it, they then invented a whole bunch of things of invented theology, as we can call it. Then, within that invented ideology, they said, if we commit sin and hide it, it doesn't matter. So they accepted bribes and concealed them. On the surface, they seemed very religious, but deep down, they were very corrupt. This is supported by two arguments, one from the Bible and the other from the Quran. The Bible speaks of the story of a woman who says that this woman, Mary Magdalene, had been brought to be stoned by the rabbis of the temple, the Pharisees. They wanted to stone her and would call her a prostitute, and they wanted to stone her for the sin of fornication and adultery. Jesus, what do you say to them? It is a very famous phrase. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. And everyone threw in the towel, that everyone left. Why did none of these Pharisees throw the stone? Because they were all adulterers and fornicators. That the Bible explains to us that it is true that the Sadducees. This means they were shameless and adopted the perverse, fornicating Hellenistic culture. But the Pharisees also became sexually corrupt. They were fornicators. So when Jesus says to them, "Who among you is without sin? Let him throw the first stone," they leave. Why do they not dare? Because they do not have the courage to confront Jesus. Because they know Jesus knows everything that is hidden. If someone is going to throw the first stone, Jesus says, wait, let's see. You are not the one who has slept with, has fornicated with so-and-so. You did not sleep with such a person on such a night. So when Jesus could expose that person, he was afraid to confront Jesus. Then everyone abandoned. Let's see what the Holy Quran says. Most Holy Virgin Mary, where was she? She was in the temple. The temple. The Holy Quran, describing the Most Holy Virgin Mary as a noble character, says, a woman who protected her private part. I want to ask you a question. When? Will that description be an admiration for a woman? For example, nowadays a woman goes to a mosque in Iran. Then they are going to admire that woman and say, very well, she protected her private part in the mosque. That is not admiration, that is not kindness, because mosques are places where one cannot have sex. Mosques are pure places. But the sacred Quran, speaking of her who lived in the temple, did not leave the temple. It speaks of the Most Holy Virgin Mary with a special character. She was special. How was she special? Alati Asanat Farjahal. The private part was protected. When will that become a special character? When everyone is perverted. They are perverse. That is to say, within the temple, they were corrupt. That is why you will see that Jesus will fight against them. During the festival, he goes to the temple and will overturn all the gaming tables, the, gambling games, doves, all those filth they have in the name of religion are robbing the people. Jesus is going to break everything because it is not religion, it is living in the name of faith. They are indeed using religion to achieve worldly things. But that is why we see what Jesus describes about the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 23. That they are like vipers. In appearance they are beautiful, but they are vipers. Dangerous. They are blind guides, false prophets. They are corrupt. They are like taboos. They are like tombs. They have beautiful appearances. Inside these tombs are filled with snakes, wild animals, and scorpions. That is how they are. Then, these Pharisees justified sin by saying that we are the chosen people. It doesn't matter. The same thing that the great Pharisee Paul comes to invent. And there are the Pauline doctrine. Paulinism will be registered in the name of Christ. That's all. They are Paulinians, followers of Paul, and have nothing to do with blessed Jesus, peace be upon him. The teachings of Paul state that faith saves you regardless of practice. The Pharisees, in appearance, had the practice but were very hypocritical. Deep down they committed sin. Paul removed the mask. Appearance doesn't matter and no one will be saved by the law. It means a Pharisee will not change. Paul never will. It will only take off the mask. What the Pharisees were is that they were hypocrites. They pretended to comply with the rules, but they were liars. And Paul says it clearly. Enough with the rules. Enough. Let's do what we want. With faith, we are saved. So, when Jesus arrives, Jesus does two things. First, he says that everything they have invented about that invented ideology is false. Indeed, we are the special race, the chosen people. We are the best. God has to serve us. God has to serve us. As you can see in the book of Joshua, there is a prophet there. It says that the example of the children of Israel with God is the example of a prophet who had a prostitute wife. And the woman, every time she went to sell herself in the market, God commanded her, it is a lie. That prophet Joshua has in Persian. You have to go pay the highest price and bring her back. This is how the children of Israel are. Every time we go to prostitute ourselves, meaning to fall into sin, it is God Himself who will buy us back. It means God Himself pays for our salvation. The book in Spanish, what is it called? Hosea, the prophet Hosea in Spanish. So look, that lie they invented about Jesus is false. With faith and works, there is salvation. The law is important, and practice is important. So, not just with your mouth, what you speak is pure talk. You don't just talk, you talk. You are liars. Then Jesus begins to show and demonstrate their hypocrisies. This bothers them. They pursue Jesus. And the worst of all, according to the Pharisees, is that Jesus comes to break the great dream, their hope. What do they say? The most important Savior, the most important prophet descended from Abraham, is one of us. And Jesus says, it is not so. Mubashiran birasuni yatimin, the prophet, the last prophet, the most important prophet who is to come. No, he is not one of the Israelites. He is a descendant of Ishmael, and he is Muhammad, and his name in the Bible is Ahmad Paraclete. This means the red limit that Jesus is going to pass. Then they say, we are going to kill you. That is why everyone decides to kill Jesus and all of Jesus' followers, because it is one of the greatest blasphemies that they cannot tolerate. That Jesus would say that the blessing is not from that race. We cannot say, we cannot believe it. No, it cannot be. Then they will pursue killing Christians, and when they see that it is not working, they send an infiltrator, Paul, and you will see the New Testament in 27 books, 20 works by Paul and his disciples. Both John and Luke are mentioned. Luke is a direct disciple, and John is a follower of Paul's thought. So 20 letters out of 27 by Paul. Therefore, the book is not of Jesus. There is no book of Jesus. The one that is the book of Jesus does not exist. There are doubts about whether some apostles wrote or did not write. So what you will see is the Pauline work. So they invented things that you have seen, for example, that about healing, the Canaanite girl. Then Jesus answers him, I have not been sent except to the lost sheep of the children of Israel. And he says, it is not right to throw the children's bread to the little dogs, calling the Canaanite daughter a dog. Jesus is not like that, brother. Jesus is a blessed, perfect human being who has come to save humanity. Why would he say, I only serve the Israelites? That's a lie. You will see how many believers Jesus has among both Jews and non-Jews. God has shown that work, that the followers of Jesus, those who truly believe in Jesus, although misinterpreted by these works of Paul. But when will they understand that Paul is a wrongdoer? They will abandon him, but they will never abandon Jesus. How many true believers in Jesus are there in the world? Are they of the Israelites, or are they from outside the Israelites? Then in reality, Jesus has cast the bread to the Israelites, to the non-Israelites. This is the practical contradiction of Jesus against that Pauline work. Dear brothers, what we see today in the Holy Land is the very same fanaticism in the form of the Pharisees who kill those who do not agree with them. Israel is like this today. In other words, they kill those who do not agree with Netanyahu. That is why they are dangerous. That is why they are wrongdoers. That is why we say no to the regime of Israel. That is why they kill children. They say these children will grow up to be great. They will be against us. So we have all the authority to massacre all those children because they are baby terrorist children. They are going to be great terrorists. So we kill them before they are born. They kill pregnant women. This is the logic of the Pharisees. Jesus says they have received all the curse. They received the curse through the mouth of Jesus and through the mouth of David. Peace be upon both. So that is the position of Iran. That is the position of the believers. That is the position of the Muslims. And unfortunately, those Pharisees continued and will continue until the coming of the Messiah. When Jesus arrives on earth, hopefully soon, they will also fight against Jesus in his second coming. That is when many believers who have believed in our priests and monks up to that day, and the lying shepherds, then they will understand that it was all a lie, what was put in their heads about the teachings of Paul. Then Jesus, all his true followers, calls, "Let us follow the Mahdi." On that beautiful day, all the true followers of Jesus will pray, together with the Mahdi at Masjid al-Kufa in Iraq, inshallah. O Allah, hasten the appearance of your guardian. Bring the Mahdi, and peace be upon you, and the mercy of Allah and his blessings.